Okay, we have the test here. Nice and tight. Pretty centered. Actually, probably a hair back, so maybe I could have done a couple millimeters longer, but I like how it feels and sits right there. I tend to sit pretty far back, so here's the height. If anyone wants a shifter, I have pretty much the identical one. It's just a little longer, but there's the part number for it, the Z3 one. What's up, YouTube? Just gonna show a quick DSSR shift rod I made. The other one, so a guy I got the car from, I wasn't sure what shifter was in it. This one was obviously bent to fit, and it was actually the early model with the longer peg there. And I was gonna buy one, but then it was gonna take a while to get, and it was like $100 and some, which this was on the drive shaft, which I just ended up banging off because this was rubbing on this too every now and then. So we got rid of that, went with the new style, shorter type shift bushing, which was blown out, and I didn't have a whole lot of good feel to it. I'm gonna have the Z3 shifter. I'm not sure where I put that at. So I kind of copied a couple different guys' DIYs that I saw. So I started with this 3/8 all thread, and then in here I have 2 square nuts, and then I used a 1x1 box. This was a box, square tubing, just picked up from Lowe's, 16 gauge. So I cut that. I kind of eyeballed it, and it actually worked pretty well. So this was the first side I did. So we have it's got to be a 10 millimeter shaft for the actual shifter. If you use 3/8, it's going to be way too sloppy. But I used a 3/8 drill bit and just kind of walled it out a little bit. And they're roughly a 1/4 inch in from the end, which seemed to work very well. But my first cut, I drilled a 1/2 inch bit here and then just cut the end in. But with this alignment here, you can't get the full travel with the shifter. So you can see, so I went from pretty much lined up here, and then I moved it back to here on this end. So that gives me the full travel. And then I noticed when I was putting it in, I put this side on, then I could not get this side on the shifter under the car with the lips here. And I thought I could just slide it in and be a little bit stronger that way. But I did have to end up grinding these completely smooth and then slide that on. And then you can't be, with the positioning I have currently, you can't be too long with the nuts you had on the inside. But ended up doing the all thread first, nut and nut, and I tack welded one nut because I wasn't sure of the exact length that I needed, which I actually used, I think, 187 millimeters from end to end, or center to center of the holes. And that seemed way too long, by quite a bit. I kind of test fitted a couple times. Then I'd unscrew it. I would take cutoff wheel, chop off a couple more threads, screw it back in, and then recheck it again. So I'm probably closer to the 180 mark. I don't have a ruler with me handy. So I would suggest, it actually worked very well using the all thread, because then you can just check it, see what you want. So then once I had it to where the shift feel was good and the position was good, I pulled it off. Then I put this is a 1/2 inch cylinder rod that I also got from Lowe's, which fits like perfectly over this. So when I had this flush, both of these flat, measured it, tried to measure the rod a hair longer, put the rod on, snugged these down actually pretty tight to where it was flat like this. So it held the rod tight, and it held the threaded rod tight, and the nuts. One nut was tack welded, but held them all tight. And then basically just threw some welds on here with my new MIG welder, which I'm no pro, but welded around here. I had flat piece of steel here that I put this whole box, laid it flat and welded, and just welded around. Suggestions, I would say, I'd recommend a drill press for sure. Would make it easier, which I did not use. And then honestly, buying the rod, threaded rod and the sleeve. Since if you know exactly the length you want, you probably don't need this threaded rod, but I feel like it might give a little extra strength to it, maybe not. But if you know the length, just cut the length. You might want to just buy some flat bar stock. Probably 1/8 inch would be overkill, but then you can cut the ends, and then you cut 2 ends here, here, and here. Then leave it all open, so you just have a flat and then 2 pieces coming off. As long as you can hold it straight, put a bolt through, so you know everything's lined up and it's gonna work. Then you'll be all good. Then I just hit it with some primer and some paint just to keep the rust off. And we're gonna put it in the car, and should be up and running here shortly. And I have to sort out this situation here with the diff, the alignment tabs. That came loose on me. I'm not a fan of them, but the previous owner put those in. I was driving and the bolt came loose. So I'm probably just going to get a subframe that's untouched, and just leave it and run the camber that way, just for more spirited driving. I know it probably run about 2 to 2.5 degrees of camber, but then I won't have to have any worries because my last E30 was the same way, and everything went great on there. Any questions, let me know. And I also have this 410 diff I'm going to get rid of, and I'm going to put in that 373 back in case I build the turbo on this thing. Thanks for watching.